Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the Orville Season 1 on Disney Plus. And I gotta say that I enjoyed this. Now, granted, I first kind of saw it when it first premiered, but my whole issue with it was the organic, how organic or inorganic certain jokes kind of went through with this series. And that's the kind of thing. I don't have a problem with the jokes themselves. It's just its pacing and where it kind of lands in the episodes themselves kind of messes with me. Everything else kind of works with that, works around them, and actually kind of pulled me in more. And actually having more episodes to kind of like blitz through helped me to do that. And kind of see that, yeah, okay, some of the jokes don't land with me, and some of their execution of where they are don't land with me, but everything else works and kind of draws me into the world and to the characters and to the stories. So, we start off this show and we're introduced to Ed Mercer. He's coming home. He's in what we're pretty much in a world of like 2418. It's similar to Star Trek, very inspired by it. It doesn't use the same terminologies, but you can definitely tell the inspirations of Star Trek. So he's coming home and he sees his wife with this blue alien dude that shoots stuff out of his like face as they're having sex. He's like, "What the fuck?" And then we pretty much jump forward to a year later. He's pretty much talking with this admiral dude. He's like, "Listen, we're gonna give you command of this mid-class ship, the Orville, but this is your kind of last chance." He's been coming in drunk, late, sloppy, and granted, dealing with a divorce from a wife that's cheated on you, that definitely kind of fucks with you. Now, granted, we also learned throughout the season that even though there were other underlying problems in their marriage, that it might not have been completely on his wife, Kelly, to do this. But it's kind of cool to like see that kind of stuff going on. So we see him get to the Orville. We're introduced to his pretty much command structure. Lieutenant Commander Bortis, the AI one that we've got, Isaac. We've got that he went and got his helmsman, Gordon. And John Lamar is kind of the other kind of helmsman. And this medical officer, Claire, and their security, Alara. And then, of course, he meets his XO, and who should it be? His ex-wife, Kelly Grayson. It's like, oh god. Like, even though it's kind of like a comedic kind of thing, and they do use it for laughs, it is an interesting thing of like, okay, you're in Starfleet. Now, granted, we're in this inspiration of Starfleet. What the fuck happens if you've got your ex-spouse as your second in command? What shenanigans would ensue from that? And the thing is, they give them both character depth and development throughout these episodes. And a great thing that they're able to do is to balance episodic nature while still maintaining continuity. I know that sounds weird, but most of your type of shows you'd mainly do with kind of Star Trek was very episodic in nature. Sometimes you'd get two-parters for certain kind of stories to kind of lengthen it. And granted, you would have certain kind of built-on continuities that certain episodes' endpoints would influence other things going further. However, it was mainly more within the certain realms of doing episodic kind of things. It's like, hey, let's do this kind of thing. This is able to balance that actually pretty well, where you get this kind of steady thing as we go through time and we see the kind of whole group kind of coalesce and have their kind of fun. We see like Gordon try and teach Isaac about practical jokes and have his leg amputated while he was asleep, and he fucking hit it. Like, the thing is, Gordon put Mr. Potato Head shit on him. And the thing is, Isaac comes from a race that thinks that all advanced life like our advanced artificial intelligence is more advanced than organics, and him kind of learning and doing a Data-esque role without completely copying Data. It works. Like, you can tell that there is love for Star Trek in this show, and they do their own kind of thing. And of course, they take certain things that pretty much echo it, but they do like heavy kind of shit, like a zoo one where Kelly and Ed get captured, and like, hey, what's the ethical nature of zoos? We get Bortus with his whole Mocklin culture, where we are told that it is a single gender species. However, him and his partner lay an egg, and he hatches the egg, and it turns out to be female. And that, like, this happens every 75 years or whatnot. And then he learns his partner was female, and that had a corrective surgery. And having the whole ethical conundrum of, does Ed allow this to continue? Does he force his medical officer to perform this surgery? And they don't, and they instead have this whole kind of thing on Mocklin to figure out what to do. And they eventually do go through with the surgery and name the child, now male, Topa. And the thing is, it really fucking creates dynamic tension between Bortus and his mate. I mean, because at first he was with his mate with, like, we need the corrective surgery, and then bringing up the whole thing with, like, circumcisions. And it's like, granted, forcing a baby that was just born to have a sex change is, like, the next kind of step. It's like, if you're going level-wise. But still, the circumcision is like, yeah, the kids don't really have a say in that kind of thing. And it's like, really interesting for them to kind of go into that. And it's funny because at first he was with his mate on that, but then he shown Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, and I'm like, wow. And it really just changes perspective. Sure, it kind of hits on a little comedy bit, but it works. And it's like, wow. And you still kind of see that tension between his mate going through the rest of the season. And you see Alara taking command because Boris has, because that was dealing with the whole kind of the chain of command of Ed and Kelly being abducted, and Alara having to try and be in command of the ship, and her freaking out. And let's see, we also deal with, like, the chief medical officer being stranded, Claire with her kids, and Isaac, and all the shit going on with that. And the thing is, as the season goes on, it gets better at balancing out the jokes to where they don't get as tonally clashing as in the beginning and feel kind of out of place. They get more into a groove, so I do look forward to the next 2 seasons to see how it kind of works out better. But you see Ed grow as a captain, you see Kelly working and growing as his XO and, like, helping him and figuring out how to do certain things, while he also helps her, because the finale deals with her fucking up pretty much a prime directive and having to, like, wanting to deal with, like, what's going on. They also get the information that the dude that she cheated with, Trulio, he gets in heat, and it starts making everybody pretty much horny as fucking shit. And then you're like, wait a minute, if he met her about a year ago at the same time and had touched him at any point to, like, shake his hand or whatnot, her cheating might not have been completely within her realms of control. Like, she might have had problems with Ed, and they bring it up and they do the kind of sniping, fighting kind of thing, which, granted, it's a trope, but at least they do their own kind of thing, and there is good chemistry between Kelly and Ed. Like, it doesn't seem out of realms that they would potentially get together, and just like, what? And instead of certain cases are like, that? Alright. But it does introduce a nice moral complexity to it of, like, okay, if this variable was not in that kind of equation, would she have cheated, or would they have had some kind of other point that would have exploded it? And this changes up because they attempt to try and, like, get back together. However, while he's pretty much trying to cover for prime directive fuck up, she's like, you lied and covered for me when you really shouldn't have. And it does work out at the end, And my only kind of problem with the season finale is it doesn't really feel like a season finale. There's a nice end cap to it, but it's like, okay. Now, granted, since it's more episodic, usually there's some other kind of way I would end off with kind of like a kind of story cap. And this does cap it off. Isaac does help her out with it. He spends like 700 years because this planet phase shifts. It's like takes 11 days. Or what? Now, like every 11 days, it comes back into our universe, but then phases into another one, and then it's like 700 years pass. It's like, ooh, that's interesting. I like the different kind of sci-fi concepts they do, like where they had to go into like a bubble that put them in like the 2-dimension, but yet they had to figure out how to stay 3-dimensional and not get killed with it because they had to hide from this Krill group. And the Krill are actually a pretty interesting kind of group introduced here. It's not a complete analog to some kind of Star Trek thing. I do like the makeup for them. They're introduced as a nice kind of credible threat. We get deep dives into them as they are trying to look into their religious text and why they keep and view other species like without souls and like beneath them, and why they're attacking them and all that. And that they come from a planet that they're essentially space vampires, and that if you UV blast them, they fucking toast. And the thing is, they had to stop them from unleashing this whole kind of weapon because Ed and Gordon were infiltrating to like understand the religious text to see if they could come to any sort of peace agreement. But they were about to launch a weapon of mass destruction that would kill like 100,000 people. And the thing is, you then have that moral dilemma. How do you stop this? And the thing is, they pretty much made sure not to kill kids, but they pretty much wiped out the whole vessel. And she's like, yeah, but they're still going to be your enemies now because you murdered everyone on that ship. And it's like, yeah, like Ed was in a no-win situation on that one. It's like, I wouldn't kill the kids either. I'd try to find another kind of way to like probably fuck up around the whole ship. But that thing was launching and they had to stop the launch, and they did it, and I would rather not kill kids. And I'd be like, well, yeah, they could be my enemy, but then that's their choice to make, and then I'll have to stop them however I can. Let's see. So we get a lot of good stuff with him. We get a lot of good stuff with Gordon. John Lamar gets some cool stuff as well and he is eventually, Kelly finds out that he has smarts and aptitude, but the thing is, he grew up around farmers and builders and hid that because they'd make fun of the well, it's stupid that we'd have like this whole kind of thing of like, you either are made fun of for being stupid among smart people or being made fun of being smart around stupid people. It's like fucking just nuts. And the thing is, I really liked in that episode where they explained the whole like, yeah, we don't have money, but wealth is still measured in other ways of like reputation. It's like, that makes sense. Let's see. But they introduce a lot of different kind of concepts, and they explore a lot of different kind of concepts with their characters as well, where they grow and everything. We've got this whole thing called Yaphet, which is this like goo thing. I mean, fuck. Well, John and Gordon fucking took it and put it in a buffet, and fucking Bortus ate it, and it's like, oh god, part of me was in fucking Bortus's colon, and nuts. And then, of course, when everybody was fucking everybody else, we see Claire, who's been turning down Yaphet at every which way, fucking, like, having sex with him, and it's just like, yep, that's kind of how it would go with a goopy kind of thing, wouldn't it? Yep. Let's see. Like, he eventually he at first was hostile to John being pretty much put in charge of like this engineering thing, but then John takes charge and everything throughout his own kind of means and proves himself, and then Yaphet and him pretty much come on a pretty good terms. Bortus, after the whole thing with Mocklin baby stuff, kind of goes into the background and kind of like pops up and pops in. Everybody kind of gets their own kind of moments and everything. Ed, throughout most of it, gets peaks and valleys throughout the most, so he doesn't have like a defined one until like he pretty much comes at the end with him and Kelly. So it's kind of cool how they are able to, they do focus on certain ones, and then they shift enough to being like, all right, this is a character that we're going to focus on as well. It's actually nice. I don't feel like they're short shift because we get that from them, and we get that character development. We get that movement and that stories for them that also affect the plot going forward. This isn't some kind of show that completely kind of forgets certain things. Now, granted, I've only watched one season, so we'll have to see if that continues going forward. But it's nice to have that continuity while still exploring them, and then we're like, all right, they might be in the background, but we've done stuff with them, or we're going to be bringing them forward to see how they kind of work out. I think by the end of it, Ed would probably be my favorite character, though I do like Kelly and her command structure style. I like how Alara was able to work through her fears that they explored in one episode because she froze up around fire. And the thing is, she did a shitty thing of like being like, used a directive to like take pretty much command of the ship to have her in a simulation to face all of her fears. But it's cool to see her being like growing into her role, even though she's like really green, and having to see her having to deal with she's probably the strongest person on the ship because of how her species develops in a higher gravity, and what she has to do to kind of how that affects her relationships and what she can do, because she froze up because she needed to help somebody but they died. And the thing is, I do like that they're like, listen, even the injuries he sustained from that probably would have killed him. You got there and tried to do everything you could. And that's the thing is, I identify with that shit so hard, because if I was ever in that situation, I would beat the fucking shit out of myself in my head on it, being like, I should have been able to do better. What could I have done better to do this? Even as everybody around me is like, you did, like, you could show me a giant kind of thing where it would be like, you could have made every different conceivable thing. You could have Doctor Strange my ass, look through all these different multiversal timeline things of 14 million and be like, I still should have been able to do something better and to help. There has to be a way to have done this so that way this didn't have to happen. And I liked identifying with that. There's a lot of different things to identify with, like Mercer and trying to do his best with his command and what choices to make and how to help somebody or how to stop somebody from doing something. Bortus with trying to figure out his culture and all that. Isaac trying to get some kind of weird ass human kind of thing or other kind of species thing. And Claire just, now granted, I don't have children, but Claire and trying to figure out how to handle her children. Granted, I kind of more draw upon that from like a sibling kind of perspective, because I can look at the boys and figure out how they're just being stupid on certain kind of things. With the like older brother, younger brother kind of thing. Let's see. I think those are the main characters, but like there wasn't any character that I outright hated. Like, I think, like, what I mean by that is like the Krill, I don't like them whatsoever, or the arrogant alien species is like, everything is beneath us. I'm talking about there wasn't a character that jumped out at me that was like badly written, badly acted, or badly executed that took me out of something. Even like background characters, like the dude's like, yeah, it would be really cool if we had elevator music here. Or the one that Ed's like, there's this one dude. He keeps pointing at me and so I'm like, hey, and I'm like, hey, that guy. That was a good joke. That was a good one. I really liked that one. But I think if this series got a better handle on like the organic nature of the jokes, like the seriousness and everything that they handle with like the things of all their concepts and all their sci-fi and everything, it would be a lot better. I could understand why this first season's like, it needed tweaking. And then I have heard that it's gotten better balance in like 2 and 3. So I will definitely look forward to those and seeing what's kind of going on. Yeah, I would definitely recommend this for character development, stories, and action. Kind of like big kind of pillars that I usually notice out. The only reason I didn't like full on like thumbs up this thing is because of the pacing and the kind of working out of issues of a first season. You know what I mean? Like, if you're able to get, like, where I'm like, alright, this first season fucking nails it. That's kind of rare. But this one had a nice, strong, solid base, and I did watch it before and be like, this seems a little bit too jokey to me. And it's coming back to it, it's not that it was too jokey, it's just the jokes felt off timing wise for me, and you get a better sense of that as you go through this season, as it pretty much gets better timing, better pacing, better placement of jokes. Even though certain jokes aren't placed well, they don't derail the exact serious nature or the plot that's going forward. I've seen that happen a lot in certain kind of anime, where it's just like, okay, we got the serious thing, and then, shit, somebody got punched in the dick, something blew up, somebody got their asshole beaten or whatnot, that kind of thing. It's just like tonal whiplash, and it's just like, this makes no sense kind of shit. This show does not get to that kind of level, so I am glad on that, and that's why I'm pretty much like, yes, this is good, I'd definitely recommend it, but it's definitely that kind of growing pains kind of season where you're like, alright, this is the base, this gives us the characters and the setting and everything here, let's see how they get on the next couple seasons, and I do look forward to that. So those are my opinions on the first season of the Orville. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.